I've discussed Amir Khan, Kell, Brook a few times over the months and years on my channel, and I wanted to do a review of that because I have to admit my opinion is changing slightly at the minute. Now, to set the scene, I've perhaps disagreed with the general public here in the sense that I don't fall down neatly on Team Khan or Team Brook. You know, most people involved in this debate seem to be extremely partisan. They seem to be very strongly Team Khan, very strongly Team Brook. I'm a fan of both guys. I rate both guys. I think both guys are entertainers. And I want to see this more from the perspective of being a general boxing fan who wants to see the top fights, specifically the top domestic fights made, as opposed to just being, you know, a crazy supporter of Khan or Brook. Now, I think it's fair to say that historically, whilst I view this fight as a really tough puzzle to crack, and whilst I view this fight as really competitive and tight, I've possibly been inclined to side with Amir Khan, ever so slightly. And I'd probably say 55-45 Khan has represented my opinion historically. I guess first and foremost, I certainly wouldn't have ever counted Kell Brook out of this fight. You know, Brook is the champion at 147. Brook has been at the weight for longer. Brook appears to be the harder puncher. He's unbeaten, and I mean, with Amir Khan not having a world-class chin, and that's being charitable, you'd always count Brook as having a relevant chance in this fight. Having said that, I've always slightly sided towards Amir Khan. I viewed Amir as having a more sort of diverse skill set than Brook, more variety to his game. I've always viewed Kell Brook as a guy who can't punch to the body. I've viewed Kell Brook as a guy with little or no inside game. And I mean, I know you could say that Amir Khan, like Kell Brook, is a guy who likes to fight long, who likes to fight from the outside. But I viewed Amir Khan as having slightly more punch variety, slightly better movement, slightly better body work. And I've just sort of sided to Amir Khan on the basis that I thought he had more tools to his game. I've also been under the impression that people who say it's as simple as, you know, Brook's going to land on Khan and knock him out, are slightly overestimating Brook's power and underestimating Khan's chin. Don't get me wrong, Brook is a very, very big puncher and Khan does not have the best chin. Having said that, we've seen time and time again, it's not as simple as you tap Amir Khan and he goes. You know, look at the Marcus Maidana fight. Look at the Lamont Peterson fight. You know, the guy doesn't have a good chin. I'm not here to argue that Amir Khan has a great chin. But you need to do more than just tap him once, let's be honest. And I've always thought people who say, oh, Brook's just going to land on him and it's going to be game over, are really oversimplifying the argument. And I thought it was a more complex debate that needed to be had. And I decided to slightly side with Amir, just based on my perception that there was more variety to his game, and he was perhaps the more eye-catching puncher than Kell Brook. And that's still something that I agree with to an extent. Amir Khan and Kell Brook, both of their inclination is to throw straight punches from range. They're both outside fighters, and for me, with Amir's hand speed and with his flashy combinations, his punches are just ever so slightly more eye-catching than Kell Brook. If you look at Brook versus Gavin, you know, even Brook versus Jojo Dan, you know, these are easy wins for Brook. These are wins where his class and his power have got him through. And if you analyse the shots he's landing, they're very accurate. They're strong, powerful, precision punching. You know, it's very impressive stuff. But when you're watching it live, I just question whether Amir Khan is the more eye-catching fighter. And I think when you've got two guys who both fight from range, both fight on the outside, I've always been inclined to think that maybe Khan could just catch the eye of the judges a bit more by having those hand speeds and by having that snap to his combinations and that sort of variety to his punching work. Now, as I say, I've always viewed this as very, very tight. But those are the reasons, historically, I've slightly sided with Khan. Having seen the fights this weekend, I've changed my opinion. And I've changed my opinion slightly. I don't now think Kell Brook is going to destroy Amir Khan. Not at all. But I do think that in my mind, if the two fought, Kell Brook would now be the favourite. Let me tell you why. Firstly, I had really bought into the fact that Amir Khan had developed into a big welterweight. I saw him against Colasso, I saw him against Diaz, I saw him against Devin Alexander, and I bought into the fact that, you know, Khan had gone straight from being a light welterweight to actually being a very big fighter at 147. Having seen the Chris Algieri fight, I've had to rethink that slightly. And I've had to maybe concede that maybe it's just that Colasso and Devin Alexander are small at the weight. You know, Devin Alexander was light welterweight champion, I guess, so it's possible. But Amir Khan was drastically outsized by Chris Algieri. Now, that's not a good sign. Chris Algieri, his first fight at 147, much bigger than Amir Khan. Now, the reason I think that's relevant is because Kell Brook is a monster at welterweight. And you've got to factor in that Chris Algieri's size difference played a massive part in how close that fight was, in my opinion. So, if a fighter like Chris Algieri is able to give Khan problems through size, could Kell Brook? Yeah, Frankie Gavin made some points after the Kell Brook fight, and one of them was how strong Kell Brook was in the clinch. You know, Kell Brook doesn't have an electric inside game. Neither does Amir Khan. But Kell Brook, for me, is uncomfortable fighting on the inside. But what he is so big and tough and strong in the clinch that even a fighter like Sean Porter couldn't outmuscle him on the inside. You know, put simply, Frankie Gavin was surprised by his strength. Sean Porter lost a fight trying to rough Kell Brook up on the inside. I think the other thing to factor in, you know, you've got the fact that Kell Brook is so strong, you've got the fact that he's so big. But we need to talk power as well. Yeah, Amir Khan, you look at how Provodnikov dropped Algieri at 140. You look at how Pacquiao dropped Algieri, was it 6 times at 144 or 143? Yeah, Amir Khan never dropped Algieri at 147, and Amir was landing with some good shots. You look at the fact that Amir hasn't actually stopped anyone at 147. And then you go back to how big and how strong Kell Brook is, and you think, realistically, Amir's not knocking Kell out. And effectively, we're talking about 5 options here. You've got Amir points, Amir KO, Brook points, Brook KO, and a draw. So, if we think, and I don't think that Amir could knock Kell out, then based on that, we can rule out one of the 5 options. And I think for the purposes of this video, we're talking about ruling out a draw as well. So that leaves us with Amir winning on points, Brook winning on points, or Brook winning by KO, which I think is relevant. Because I've bought into the theory that Khan's punch resistance may have gone up with the move to 147. But let's be honest, did he not look slightly rocked, slightly uncomfortable by Chris Algieri? And more worryingly than that, how concerned were you at Khan's lack of defence to the Algieri offence? I mean, Chris Algieri was throwing punches from far off. He was throwing like a sort of looping left hook, a sort of MMA style overhand right, where you bend the knees, kind of bend the knees, lean back, and almost overhand it. Yeah, these punches came a long way, and Amir was getting hit by them. And what bothered me more is not only the fact that he was getting hit by them, which was bad enough in itself, but was the complete lack of adaptation, the complete lack of adjustment in the Khan defence. You know, I'll be honest, if I was fighting someone and they kept hitting me like this, suddenly my hand would be there. You know, it's not rocket science. You know, I said this in my previous video, so I won't repeat myself, but if you're sitting at home watching this video, if someone kept hitting you in exactly the same place, in exactly the same way, would you not consider moving your hands there to prevent it? Now, Amir Khan is a world-class fighter, yet he seemed unable to make that adjustment against Chris Algieri. Now, against Chris Algieri, I think he was rocked at times. I think he was hurt. And I think that's why he put in a lesser performance. It's because he didn't want to get KO'd by a guy like Chris Algieri. But if you can't make those defensive adjustments against Chris Algieri, what chance do you have against Kell Brook, who in my opinion is technically much more sound, whose punches will come a lot quicker, a lot straighter, a lot more accurately than Chris Algieri? And most importantly, a hell of a lot harder. If Kell Brook lands on Amir Khan with the regularity that Chris Algieri did, with power punches, then Amir probably does get knocked out. And that's not criticising Amir Khan, but if Kell Brook lands with that regularity on anyone at welterweight, they'll probably get knocked out. Brook's a big guy. He's a very big puncher. And for me, it wasn't only the fact that Khan was getting hit by Algieri, it was the lack of adjustment. So for me, it's really, really difficult, because I don't think either guy is inclined to fight on the inside or at close range. I think that this is fought as a distance chess match, an outside game where the jab is key and both fighters predominantly throw straight 1-2s. That's how I see this fight breaking down. Now, I don't see Khan having the power to hurt Brook. And I fear that Khan will not be able to avoid the Brook offence for 12 rounds. He's not been able to avoid it with Chris Algieri. So I don't see how he can avoid it against Brook. And without that defensive sharpness and adjustment, I could see Brook stopping him. But it's more than just stopping him. If Brook drops him and puts Amir in a defensive cell for 2 or 3 rounds, or if Brook hurts him to the extent where Amir is inhibited in his game, suddenly Brook wins 2 or 3 rounds on the bounce, and suddenly there's scope that Brook can outpoint him. For me, Amir's best bet is that he has slightly better movement than Brook, slightly better hand speed than Brook, slightly flashier combinations than Brook. And I thought Amir would be on his bike, staying out of trouble, fighting from range, ambushing, come in, boom, 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 out. That's how I saw it. I think the defensive frailties could cost him though, and I've changed my mind. I still don't come down too heavily on either side of the coin. But right now, after 2 fought, gun to my head, I'm picking Kell Brook. I'm picking Kell Brook by knockout. Kell Brook's a bigger man than Amir Khan. He hits harder than Amir Khan. He's got a better chin than Amir Khan. And the Khan defence is not world class. Let me know your thoughts. Keen to discuss. I know it's a controversial topic. Thanks for watching.